This episode is brought to you by Stars. Lisa Tadeo's best-selling book is about to become your favorite new show. Based on a true story, the new Stars original series 3 Women stars Shailene Woodley as Gia, a grieving and struggling writer who embarks on a cross-country road trip where she meets 3 women determined to radically change their lives. This one is not to be missed. Watch the season premiere of 3 Women now, only on Stars and the Stars app.
Chosen. Be brave, Professor. Be brave like my mother.
How do you feel?
Excellent. Really excellent.
Hey everyone, welcome to Hogwarts, a podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Hogwarts, a podcast. We are covering Chapter 30, The White Tomb. This is the last chapter in Half-Blood Prince, so we will be ending Mollie's favorite book, so we must have Mollie on.
Hello, everybody.
Mollie is back to discuss what is a pretty straightforward chapter. It's a lot of trying to deal and cope with the fact that Albus Dumbledore is not here anymore.
It's really sad.
It is, and they get some reflections, and we get a lot of people paying their respects. So we dive right in with the news that morning, the morning of the funeral, with some exodus from Hogwarts. Some students have already fled the school. Their parents have taken them away. The Patil twins were gone fairly early. Zacharias Smith, our favorite Hufflepuff, right, Mollie?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But side note, who is your favorite Hufflepuff student?
Oh.
I don't think I've ever asked you this before. It better be Cedric Diggory, but I'm kidding.
I mean, of course it's Cedric. He's
Which
a dog lover. We've already gone over this, Dan.
Which living Hufflepuff student is your favorite?
I don't know.
I'm putting you on the spot.
I know. I would have to think about this.
I would have to think. Off the top of my head, I would probably say Justin Finch Fletchley.
Yeah, he's pretty...
I cannot say Ernie to save my... I can't do it.
No.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
And it's certainly not Zacharias. However, I think he's a little misunderstood, but there it is.
Yeah.
He was escorted out by his father. Seamus ends up staying after a lively argument with his mother, but his mother had some issues trying to get lodging because there's also arrivals at Hogwarts. Mm-hmm. There's a flood of witches and wizards coming in for Albus's funeral to pay their respects, and Harry notes one particularly extravagant arrival of a coach with some palominos flying it in, and he was particularly enjoying some of the younger students who hadn't seen it the first time when it came through, but Madame Maxine has arrived.
She has.
He also notes that there's a Ministry of Magic delegation also arriving, which includes the Minister of Magic himself, which means Harry is going to try to avoid them at all costs.
Yes.
We get a little bit more of the aftermath. Neville ends up being discharged from the hospital wing. Flitwick, completely fine. Bill remains in the hospital wing, however, and I'm a little surprised they never transferred him to St. Mungo's. Like, wouldn't that be a thing you think they would do?
Possibly.
I feel like this is a little out of Pomfrey's wheelhouse.
I gotta wonder, though, how many witches, wizards would have that wheelhouse at St. Mungo's, though, because even Lupin said it was unknown. So.
Yeah.
And what if they just tried to trap him on that floor where you just don't leave?
Oh, you're probably going to get put with people that actually are werewolves that have been bitten by a werewolf.
Right.
So I don't know that they want to move him to that.
Well, if you are bitten by a werewolf, I mean, are you going to go to St. Mungo's, though? Like, don't you think you'd, like, feel like an outcast from society?
Yes, but there was one example where Arthur was actually in a room with someone who was bit.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And Lupin tried to talk to that person, but that person did not want much to do with anybody.
Yeah.
It was just odd to me, like someone who was And forget the werewolf part of it. I mean, he was badly injured.
Yeah.
Like, I would think he'd, like, get more medical attention, but I don't know.
I mean,
I'm not saying Madame Pomfrey's not capable, but
yeah.
a hospital might be the better place for him.
Maybe, yeah.
They say he looks a little bit more like Mad-Eye Moody now.
Yeah.
Which Harry notes not complimentary. Like,
Ooh, yeah.
He's a little, he's in rough shape.
He is.
Bill's in rough shape.
Yeah.
But he does note that Bill likes steaks a little bit more on the very rare side now. So that alludes to some of the wolfish characteristics that Lupin said might be popping up.
Yeah.
Ginny comes to the realization, like, oh, I think I'm going to have to deal with Fleur. I think this is really going to happen. She's going to be part of the family. And Harry's like, she's not that bad. Like, I don't understand why you all dislike her so much.
Yeah.
And then he sees Ginny's look and is like, but she's not really that attractive.
No, not at all.
She's, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
you're much more attractive. It's all good.
Yeah.
Hermione lets Harry know that she discovered Eileen Prince is Severus Snape's mother. And then Harry makes the connection. They talk about the idea that, it makes sense that he would call himself the Half-Blood Prince because he would want to be known as the prince side of the family since his father was a muggle. Mm-hmm. So that tracks. That makes sense. And then Harry's like, yeah, you know what? Tom Riddle, same thing. Mother was a witch, father was a muggle, and he came up with Lord Voldemort.
Right.
Now, mother a witch, father a muggle, Half-Blood Prince is the title he bestows upon himself. So it's like, it makes sense that he and Voldy would get along. The funeral for Albus Dumbledore is about to take place. And before Harry leaves the Great Hall, he notices Crabbe and Goyle huddled together, and he notices how lonely they look without the figure of Draco between them. And Harry feels something interesting. He still doesn't like Draco. That is, probably a constant in his entire life, is he's never going to like Draco Malfoy. But now he does feel a pity for him. Like, he knows what happened on that astronomy tower. He knows Draco didn't have it in him to pull that trigger. He knows that he was backing off. He knew he didn't really want to kill Albus Dumbledore. He was in a tough position. And Harry feels for Draco, and, like, he's kind of boxed into a corner.
Yeah.
And any way he chose to try to get out of that corner is not good. Mm-hmm. So he kind of feels for Draco. But most of his hatred, most of it, like 90% of it at this moment in time, is reserved for one Severus Snape.
Yep.
And my question to you, Molly,
Yeah.
is that deserved? Should Snape have most of that hate pointed in his direction after the events of the astronomy tower?
I mean, I think that's fair.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think it's fair.
After all that Snape's done to him over the years.
Yeah. This is kind of like the pinnacle,
The tipping point
the
of,
tipping
like...
point, yeah.
I would say...
I think it's justified. I would be pretty upset. I mean, he just killed Albus Dumbledore.
That's fair, and I get that. And I get Harry's personal disdain for Severus. The reason I would say it is not
Okay.
justified is because all of these events start with one man, Tom Riddle.
Yeah.
It all stems from Voldy. So, who gave Draco the orders to kill Albus Dumbledore? Voldy. Voldy set that in motion. So, the poison, the necklace, the vanishing cabinet stuff, the unbreakable vow that we saw Severus make is all stemming from those original orders of Voldy to really just make Draco's life hard.
Right.
Honestly, because I still think Voldy never intended Draco to actually succeed. Mm-hmm. So, I think a lot of it it all starts and ends with one Tom Marvolo Riddle. So I think any hate that you place anywhere else is a little misplaced because it's all coming from one guy.
Yeah, I mean, I still think Harry has a right, and I still think it's fair for Harry to hate Snape as much as he does. I get what you're saying. Like, yes, all the anger should be at Voldemort, but at the same time, too, like, Snape as an individual has a choice to carry out.
Like,
like...
I feel like, well, so even going back further, because a lot of some of this hatred on Snape is also the information that he just recently found out that Snape gave over the information about his parents. But, okay, that's one thing, but Voldy killed both of your parents. Voldy set the prophecy in motion that has marked you as the equal. So he's marked you as the person that's going to suffer through all of this until it ends, one way or the other. It's like, I don't know if...
Yeah, but would have Voldy showed up there had it not been for Snape running to him?
Yeah, but he picked one because he had two options at the time.
Yeah.
And Voldy still made a choice on which one to go.
Yeah.
So it's like, I get it. I understand, and Harry has real reasons to hate Severus.
Yeah.
And he has real reasons to hate Draco. I'm just like, don't lose sight of the one who's making this all go.
Yeah.
The one who set everything into motion and is continuing to kill and torture and put pressure on his followers to enact whose, like, itinerary, whose agenda?
Yeah.
His. It's his agenda.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing what they're doing because it's him,
Right,
So,
yeah.
I just don't lose sight of...
But I don't think Harry's, like, losing sight. Like, I think Voldemort is still very much in his mind as, like, the baddest mamma jamma in the equation. But...
New nickname, Baddest Mamma Jamma.
Baddest mamma jamma. Voldy. You're welcome. Did you miss me?
Yeah. Mollie already putting her imprints on these episodes. Love it.
Snape has every right to be a focus of Harry's anger. 100%.
Yeah, I get you.
I understand what you're saying, but we can agree to disagree.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So, people start arriving for this funeral. Bear with me. I'm going to get through some of the attendees that were listed in this chapter. We have Kingsley, Moody, Tonks, Lupin. Holding hands, by the way. Tonks and Lupin holding hands. Mollie and Arthur. Bill and Fleur. Fred and George. Madame Maxine. Oh, by the way, Fred and George dressed in black dragon skin suits. Solid fashion choice.
Chef's kiss.
Mm-hmm. Madame Maxine, Tom of the Leaky Cauldron, Arabella Figg, you might remember her from such great hits as her deposition at the Ministry of Magic. Bass player of the Weird Sisters, which I feel weird that it's only just the bass player and not the other members.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of odd.
Yeah.
Are they declaring right here? Is this what they're doing? I don't know.
Right? Are they breaking up the band?
Yeah, are they breaking up? Like, I have questions.
Yeah.
We get Ernie Prang of the Night Bus. He's the night bus driver. We get Madame Malkin, who's the dress robes, the robes maker in Diagon Alley. We get the barman of the Hog's Head. We get the trolley lady from the Hogwarts Express. We all know, if we've listened to this podcast, what I think of the trolley lady from The Cursed Child, but we'll deal with that another day. All of the castle ghosts show up, which you can barely see them in the sunlight.
Yeah.
Like, only if they move and you catch a glimmer
right.
can you see them. But
which is super eerie.
It would be a little off-putting, honestly. Especially like someone like the Bloody Baron who's got a visage anyway. But the castle ghosts are there. You get one former Minister of Magic, Fudge, is in attendance. You get Rita Skeeter. I'm going to skip this next name for just a second because I want to double back on it. You get Friends. You get Rufus, the Minister of Magic, and you get Hagrid, who ends up carrying Albus's body to the altar of sorts. But can we double back on this one name that's in attendance at this funeral? One, Dolores Jane Umbridge.
Yeah.
You know what? I give all the credit in the world to Harry Potter for not hexing her the second he saw her.
Right.
I would lose it if I saw her.
Yeah.
I would lose my mind.
Yeah.
And, we'll talk about the Minister of Magic here shortly. But I would run up to Fudge. I would run up to Rufus. And I'd be like, what's she doing here?
Yeah. Like,
What in the world is she doing here?
bold move.
She deserves to be in a cell in Azkaban. And she's coming for Dumbledore's funeral?
Yeah.
Get her out.
Yeah.
I want her. I would run to McGonagall. How is McGonagall even allowing this? If I were McGonagall, I'd be like, get her out. I want her out of my grounds.
Yeah.
Oh my, I would be livid.
Yeah,
I'd be livid.
I'm with you. I don't understand why she's here.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
I know why she would want to be there. I take that back. I don't even know why she would want to be there.
Right. She's surrounded by a bunch of people that
Who hate her.
Right.
And a bunch of creatures that hate her.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to in a second too.
Yes.
Like,
I know.
I understand why she would want to be there. She wants to be there to be seen at Albus Dumbledore's funeral.
Right.
I do get that, but come on.
I know.
Like, it's got to be a very antagonistic room against her for
Yeah.
the most part, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But, if I was McGonagall, if I was Harry, I'd be like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like, get her out.
Right.
Like, we wouldn't cooperate with anything until she is left.
Right.
I would. Clearly, I'm livid now, and I'm just talking about it.
Right.
I'm talking about a fictional world, and I'm upset. But anyway.
That's why we're here, Dan.
I'm telling you, it's... I honestly, to tell you the truth, I had forgot that she attended this thing until I reread this.
Same.
And I was stunned.
No, same.
Like, it's one of the few times I get, like, a true, real reaction while reading these. Because normally I generally remember most of it. And if I didn't remember, I'm like, once I read it, I'm like, oh, yeah, that did happen. Okay, fine.
Right.
Okay, whatever. This one, I was like, what?
Yeah.
How? Why?
I know.
I know. It was a whole mood. I was a vibe. Anyway, we'll continue. We'll get over that for a second. So the ceremony actually begins. And it's a little interesting. Harry sees Hagrid after delivering the body of Albus Dumbledore. He ends up sitting at the back with Grop, who looks more, I don't want to say human, because he's not.
Yeah.
But his emotions and his actions are human-like. And just the image of Grop cuddling Hagrid.
It's so sweet.
And like him patting him on the back and him driving Hagrid like into the ground.
Yeah.
Harry has to stifle back a little laugh. He's like, I shouldn't be laughing. I feel like I want to laugh, but I shouldn't be laughing.
Yeah.
And then Harry's hearing, these vague terms come through the crowd, and because it's a large crowd, and he's sitting not up front, and it's, vague generic phrases like, oh, he was a good man that fought for the good of people, or he was so wise, and he did all these blah, blah, blah accomplishments and whatever. And then Harry thinks, Dumbledore's idea of a few words would be nitwit, oddment, blubber, and tweak, which is a callback from a long, long time ago.
Yep.
And again, Harry suppresses a grin. He's like, I can't be like, what is wrong with me right now?
Right.
The mer people end up in the lake. They pop out and they start well, they don't even pop out. They like right up to the surface.
Yeah.
And they start singing a song that Harry interprets as full of loss and despair. And then he wonders, like, he thinks back to the one time where he saw Albus communicating with the mer people in the lake, and he's like, where did Albus even learn Mermish?
Right.
Like, what made him even try that? What made him do that? And then he thinks about it, and he's like, there is so much that I never asked him. There's so much that was left unsaid.
Yeah.
Because this happened so quickly and so immediately. And Molly, I just want to get your thoughts on some of this, because he's hitting on some really deep emotions and some deep thoughts. And, you could start with him kind of suppressing a grin sometimes.
Yeah.
During a funeral, which you think would be this melancholy, sad moment, and all he can think about are some of the funnier things.
Yeah.
Either about the situation with Grop and Hagrid, or funny things that Dumbledore would do or say.
Right.
And I feel like that's part of remembering the person.
Absolutely.
Is remembering the whole person.
Yeah.
And, if any of our listeners have been to a wake or been to a funeral, I know that, some people would say, you You don't want your funeral to be
Yeah.
just everybody crying over you. You want them to tell stories about, some fun time that you had with them, or some funny moment, or something stupid that you did, or like whatever, just to make people laugh. And I remember some of the funerals and wakes I've been to, that some of it is I would, tell something funny about the person, or some good memory about the person to get a smile out of the family. If it wasn't my family, like I was going to someone else's wake or funeral, some other families, I would tell them a good story about that person and get them to smile or get them to laugh about a person who's not there anymore. Yeah. I think that's important.
Oh, absolutely. I know I've spoke about it before, but, my dad passed away, and I was very close with my dad. And, I mean, there's definitely like a whole array of emotions that you go through when somebody passes away that you're really close with. I mean, even if you're not close with them, you want to remember the whole person, the good, the bad, everything with it. This is going to sound, I feel like Harry in this situation, like this is going to sound terrible, but like I know I cracked a joke pretty soon after my father passed away that I know that he would have totally enjoyed and gotten a laugh out of. And, I think it depends too how you grieve, your ideas about grieving and about funerals, but I think you have to put yourself in the perspective, unfortunately, like, okay, if I passed away, what would I want in order to help, people move on and whatnot. So it's crazy because I think no matter what, whenever you lose somebody, you're also thinking like, oh, I should have asked them this. I wish I could have known that. Like, why did I never ask them that?
And it's something you always get to way too late in the process.
Exactly. Like, it's a hard, ever-changing process.
And I think Harry in this moment really encapsulates like what all that is, because he is struggling not to smile at some of the funnier things. But then when he realizes like, there's so much about him that I wanted to know and never thought to ask, which is a human moment. Like I know sometimes we tease Harry for maybe not thinking of things the quickest.
Right.
But this is a human moment. I think everybody has this, no matter what age you are, who you are, whatever. Everybody has that moment of like, I should have taken advantage of that better.
Yeah.
Always.
Absolutely.
But then as he's thinking about all of that, the grief finally like really hits, and tears start to fall from Harry. Like he looks away pointedly from Ginny and from Ron and Hermione, and just looks off in the lake, looks off at the forest, and then the tears fall. And I think that's a human moment too, because even if it is one of our family members or someone we love or care about that is passed away or that has passed away, and we go to their wake or we go to their funeral, we might not even cry then. We're trying to put all the attention on the person that has passed, so we're not really dealing with that yet. We're just trying to be like, tell stories, tell memories, tell whatever, or be hospitable to all the people that came to remember them, and be thankful for that. But it happens with everyone, and it'll probably happen at the most inopportune, random time.
Yep.
But it'll hit you.
Oh, yeah.
And when it does, it hits you like a ton of bricks, and you cannot stop it.
Yeah.
And it's like a real emotional punch.
Yeah.
And I think everybody goes through that too. So I think Harry does a really good job of kind of spanning these emotions of what loss is.
Absolutely. It'll hit you when you least expect it. I think you put it
so randomly. You're not even thinking about it. And then you'll just think of something that that person did or said, or a memory you had with them, and then all of a sudden it's like you can't stop it, and the tears do just fall out of nowhere. Yeah.
I think sometimes too, like I've had moments where it's like it wasn't in the forefront of my brain until like I sat down and I had a moment to myself, and I was like, that's what I've been upset about, So I gotta wonder too. Sorry, I'm gonna take a nice little hard turn here.
It's okay. It's what you do. Tangents are your thing.
I know. I gotta wonder what this the mermaid song sounds like, because what about in Goblet of Fire when he opens the egg and it's like screeching noises?
Yes. So that's a great point. So that's why I corrected myself, because they don't actually break the edge of the water.
Yeah.
So when they're singing their song, they're like right underneath the surface, which actually makes Harry think of the Inferi in the lake.
Yeah.
Because it's bodies right under the edge of the water.
Right.
But they're singing their song right under the water. So it does sound more like sing-songy.
Yeah.
And then later, to like pay their respects and like watch the funeral that we'll get to, they pop out of the water.
Okay.
But they don't say anything or do anything.
Okay.
But they just pop out of the water, acknowledge it, and then they go back down.
Right.
Because it's when it's out of the water that it's like just blatant screeching.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a really small, but to your point, how clearly could you hear them if they're singing under the water? Like, wouldn't you have to be under the water to hear
With
that
them?
well?
Right.
So that's the question that I have.
Yeah.
Is how well do they project that sound that they're making under the water out of the water to everybody?
Right. Who knows?
Like that I don't get.
Yeah.
But, whatever. That's fine.
Magic.
It's a lovely gesture nonetheless.
Exactly.
So.
Right. Sorry, I did not mean to take away from
No, you're
Harry's
fine.
Grief.
I just think it was a really good setup from Harry on what grief is and what loss is and how
It's great.
a real person goes through that.
Right.
And struggles with, and you shouldn't have to struggle with like suppressing a smile. Like if you're thinking of something nice about the person, share that. Don't like hold that in.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Yeah.
But like the merpeople, there was another group of creatures living in and around Hogwarts that wanted to pay their respects. Centaurs came out of the woods to watch the ceremonies. And then after it ended, they shot up a shower of arrows that panicked everyone, but they ended up falling well short of the people, and that was kind of their send-off, kind of like a 21-gun salute type of thing. And I just want to, I just listed off all of the people, and we talked about the mer people, and we've talked about the centaurs now. And I think, without really saying it, I think that alone is a testament to who Albus Dumbledore was.
Absolutely.
Because you got all kinds of kinds coming to pay their respects, from orders like Kingsley and Moody and Tonks, to heads of state like Rufus, to and Fudge, who was the Minister of Magic, for a long time with Dumbledore, and then you get Arabella Figg, who's a squib in a Muggle neighborhood.
Right.
You get Tom, the barman of the Leaky Cauldron. You get, it's just all kinds of kinds from the
Giants.
Human point of view.
Yeah. And
then you get centaurs and mer people who thought, you're talking about mer people. He learned their language. And, this is obviously an English-speaking podcast. But I travel. I do my fair bit of traveling. And I always try. I might fail, but I always try when I go travel internationally to learn a little bit of the language that I'm traveling to. And it's not great, and I'm never good.
Yeah.
But I hope, and people listening to me from other countries can tell me, but I hope it's a thought that kind of, I'm trying.
Yeah.
And I might not be perfect, but I'm trying. And it's a sign of respect.
Yeah.
To try their language first.
Right.
Instead of just assuming everybody knows English.
Right.
It's a great sign of respect that he would take the time and the effort to converse with the mer people in their language.
Right.
And then centaurs, we know how hostile they are. We know how easily riled they are. We know what, respect is a whole other thing to them. It's respect is almost a religion to them.
Right.
It matters. And there's been some controversies throughout our time just in these books with the centaurs and abuses of the forest.
Right.
And people coming into their parts of the forest, or people defiling the forest, or however you want to phrase it. And Dumbledore's always there to smooth that out. Dumbledore always finds a way to be like, look, I know you guys need your space. I want to respect that. What can we do to make this work?
Yeah.
How can we have this happen? And he has disrespected them a couple of times by taking Firenzen as a teacher. That was a disrespect to them. They didn't like that.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't like it from Firenze. They didn't like it from Dumbledore. They're like, this is kind of disrespectful. And he always found a way to be the diplomat and break through the antagonistic barriers and figure out, where can we meet in the middle?
Yeah.
Like, how can we coexist peacefully?
Right.
And he never talked down to them, presumably, because if he did, they wouldn't be here. So, and he also figured out a way to save that ministry lady from their clutches, which that in itself is a minor miracle.
I don't know how he did that.
I don't know how he did it. I would
Yeah.
love to know. If she ever put out a short story about him just going in there,
You'd read it?
I would read that in a heartbeat, because I have no idea how he swung that.
Yeah.
That is a miracle, and he should be given an Order of Merlin first class for just pulling off that hostage, situation. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he's, I think that is never said blatantly here, and Harry never really states it specifically, but I think that's a better testament to who Albus Dumbledore is as a whole,
Yeah.
is how many different types of people came out.
Oh, absolutely. For sure.
As Harry's thinking about people, he also thinks of all the people that stood between him and Voldy. He thinks of James, he thinks of Lily, he thinks of Sirius, and now Albus as well. And he starts thinking, I can't blame him one bit for this line of thought of I can't keep having people step between me and what's ultimately, now that he's learned, my destiny of it has to be me and him. James and Lily are different. I mean, if their parents stepping between a home invader and their child,
Yeah.
who is literally a baby.
Right.
What do you want James and Lily to do? That's
Their son.
their son. And Sirius's family too. I mean, Godfather, James's best friend. He feels like he is essentially, Harry's family and Harry's father figure after James. So, okay, Sirius, but no. Here you have Albus, who could do anything. Mm-hmm. He's got the whole world. He could do whatever he wants, and he's chosen to stand between him as well. So, Harry's I can't keep having good people
Yeah.
die for me.
Right.
At some point, I'm going to have to step up here.
Right.
So he's starting to have that recognition. And as he's thinking of that and dwelling on that, bright white flames erupt from this altar. And smoke billows from it, and it starts making some odd shapes in the sky. Harry notes that he possibly saw a phoenix rise out of it. After the flames die down and go away, a tomb remains. And that is where Albus will lie and rest. So it is... I wonder why the phoenix. I wonder if that's them doing magic for it, or if that's an Albus Dumbledore thing, where it's
He's got style.
Yeah, exactly. Nice pull. Nice pull. Kingsley was he needs to go away with style. He needs to
Right? Exactly.
So we get the post-funeral. We get the post-funeral kind of actions and wrap-up here. We get Harry and Ginny. And Mollie, you know how we, through the books, have loved to talk ships, and we have loved to talk relationships. Well, here, unfortunately, we get a relationship ending.
I know.
Harry turns to Ginny and basically says, we can't be together. This can't happen. And Ginny responds, as ever Ginny can, with, it's for some stupid noble reason, isn't it?
Yeah. She's got his number.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Ginny's like, I never gave up on you. And this is where Ginny turns away a little bit and doesn't exactly look
Yeah.
at Harry.
Yeah.
As I never really gave up on you. I talked with Hermione and was like, oh, maybe I should just go live my life a little bit. And this is great relationship advice, by the way, of just be yourself.
Right.
Be yourself is the best thing that you probably can do. Learn who you are as an individual. And maybe that is, dating other people and seeing what you're like by yourself and on your own before entering a relationship where now it's not one, now it's two, and you have to be two. So, my always philosophy is be a great individual first, and then we can talk about being a better couple.
For sure.
So get yourself figured out.
Yeah.
And that goes, if you have a breakup,
Right.
spend some time, figure out who you are again, because you've probably changed through the breakup, through the relationship and the breakup. So figure out who you are again.
You don't want to be with somebody who doesn't fit you just because you're enamored with them, and vice versa.
Right.
So
There's always a time.
great advice, Dan.
There's always a time and a place, because let's say Ginny and Harry start dating Harry's year 3, Ginny's year 2. Mm-hmm. First of all, that's a 13 and a 12-year-old. They don't know what a relationship is. Sorry for all of you 8th graders that might be listening to this and they're in a relationship. But
Yes.
no, they don't know what being in a relationship is really like. So would it work?
Right.
I don't know that it would. You know, they're coming at this conversation in such a mature way. Mm-hmm. And still they're young. This is a 16-year-old and a 15-year-old. And they're still coming at it in a way that would be miraculous for people in their 20s and in their 30s. To come to a breakup this mutually and maturely.
Oh, yeah.
Is a wonderful thing. Granted, they still both care about each other, and they both make that very clear here. They're like, Ginny, I haven't given up on you. Mm-hmm. And Harry's like, this doesn't feel good. Like, I don't want this. Mm-hmm. But this is just how it has to be. It's just a very mature outlook from both of them. For such young kids still. It's really well done.
Yeah.
And then we get a side detail of Ron is sitting here with tears rolling down his face and his nose. But he's holding on to Hermione and brushing Hermione's hair as she's crying on his shoulder.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, maybe a hint towards as one relationship ends, another starts. But also, it's an emotional time. And as we talked in the last chapter, emotions run hot and things come out in those emotions.
Absolutely, yep.
And in this case, between Harry and Ginny, it's a breakup, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Now, we get away from the relationship stuff. Well, we get a different type of relationship, I suppose. the relationship between the Minister of Magic and Harry Potter. Oh. And Rufus tracks down Harry, and he wants info on, stunningly, what Harry and Albus were up to the night that Albus died, which, for the record, is fair to ask.
Everybody wants those details.
They're important details.
They are.
I mean, a man was murdered on a tower. I'm sorry, are you going to, prevent police from asking details on a murder?
Right.
Come on. This is a very reasonable thing for him to... I get it may be insensitive in the moment, but Harry's clearly avoiding him, too. It's not like he's easily able to get at Harry Potter. So it might be a touch insensitive, but he should wanting to have that information, and he's a former law enforcement... I get he's a Minister of Magic now, but he was the head of the Order office for,
Right.
This is his thing. So, say what you want, but...
you as the reader get why Harry's doing it, but you can totally understand why...
That's all I'm saying.
Rufus would be like, okay, what the heck, man?
I get... I don't disagree with Harry not telling him. Mm-hmm. But you can't blame him for wanting that information, is my only point.
No, yeah.
You can't blame him for wanting it.
Right.
So... they get into a conversation, and obviously Harry's not giving the information, and Harry's a little snippy.
Yeah.
He's a little snippy with his responses, a little antagonistic, and Rufus is getting a little annoyed. Mm-hmm. And Harry notes, I think he says something that makes Rufus go, you do realize Albus, not even Albus Dumbledore, can rise from the dead. He is gone. And Harry responds with, he will only be gone from the school when none here are loyal to him.
That is just...
It's a great response.
Yeah.
It's a great response. Mm-hmm. Rufus ends up saying, hey, okay, look, Albus is gone. You do need protection. It's not a secret that Death Eaters want you. This is not a secret. And he offers protection. He offers to put a couple of orders in Harry's employ. Harry can run it for sake of a better term. We'll give you some orders, deal with them, use them how you want.
Right.
Like, we'll give them to you. We'll assign them to you. And Harry's like, really? Voldy wants to kill me himself. Do you really think a couple of Aurors are really going to stop him from doing that if he wanted to? Like, come on. Which, while snippy, is not wrong.
Yeah.
So, Harry's got a little of a teenage bite in a lot of what he's saying.
Right.
But he's not wrong. And once again, Harry rejects the offer of help, or to help, the Ministry of Magic. He rejects the help from the Ministry, and he rejects to help them, as Rufus makes a renewed effort to be like, so have you thought more about, like, helping us out, being a little bit of a poster child? He doesn't say those words, but that's what he wants. And, Molly, one of the wonderful debates that we've had on this podcast
Yes.
was, should Harry be willing to help the Ministry of Magic? What are your 2 cents?
If he doesn't want to, I don't think he should. I really don't. He definitely got screwed over by them for a good amount of time. I could see holding a grudge and being like, nope, sorry. Plus 2, they don't really know the whole story of what's all going on. And, I mean, Harry says it, like, their help is not really going to be anything beneficial to him.
I get Harry has quite the grudge, and the Ministry has put him through it. I feel like the Ministry only put him through it for, like, a year and a half. Like, it was a year and a half of them, like, really, really raking him through the coals and discrediting him and, whatever, falsely and wrongly. I get that. We're talking about the fate of the wizarding world.
Yeah, I know.
Like, the fate of the wizarding world. And you need a united front. Dumbledore knew it originally. That's why he tried to get Fudge on his side when this all broke down after the Goblet of Fire, or the Triwizard Tournament, after the events of the Triwizard Tournament. He tried to convince Fudge. Fudge is not Rufus. Those are 2 different ministers.
I know.
Rufus will actually do stuff.
Yeah, but I can understand Harry's distrust.
Yes, I get that too. I understand it, and I do like him, and I give him credit for responding to Rufus's attempts with, well, have you released Stan Shunpike yet?
Right.
And he's obviously, he didn't say, but the implication is no.
Right.
And that was enough for Harry, and I give him credit for saying that. I don't think he goes far enough.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier in this episode, the first thing I would say, I'm like, sorry, Minister, before you even speak, what's she doing here?
Right.
Like, that would be the first thing out of my mouth. Why is she here and not in Azkaban?
Right.
And I would show him my hand, and I'd be like, she tortured me.
Yeah.
And you have her here.
Right.
Everything you say after that is just a no-go. Until you do something about her. Mm-hmm. And then if you do something, if you fire her, send her to Azkaban. Now we can have a conversation. In my mind, if I were Harry, I think that ship has sailed for Harry in this book and in all of the context of him. If I were in Harry's shoes, I'd be like, fire her, send her to Azkaban.
Right.
Now we can talk.
Yeah. But Dan, this is why you're Ravenclaw. Because you think logically about all of it. Harry is typically going to act out of gut feeling and reaction.
That's true.
So he's gonna...
I'm sorry. I'm still upset that Umbridge is even here.
I know.
Still can't even get over that. I still can't even get over that.
I know. It's
like, what are you doing? And that discredits everything Rufus is trying to build.
Yeah.
Which I do think is legit, by the way. He might be going at it at a harsher view than maybe he needs, but also they're in a war. He does have to take maybe some unnecessarily cautious precautions.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he can't just sit back on a threat.
Right. I get what you're saying.
Because Stan Shunpike he was talking about Death Eater plans.
Yeah.
And I get that he's, whatever. I mean, I don't believe him to be a real threat. Mm-hmm. But you can't just be like talking about Death Eater plans at the Leaky Cauldron and not expect some kind of knock on your door.
Repercussion from it, yeah.
Anyway, the people agree with you, Molly, because I'm looking at our poll from Chapter 16, A Very Frosty Christmas, which the poll is, should Harry help the Ministry of Magic? And the poll results are very much in your favor.
Yeah.
75% say no, he doesn't owe them anything.
Yeah.
And 25% say yes, being united matters.
Yeah.
So polls are in your favor. That poll is still up, by the way. Please go vote on the poll if you haven't, as well as all of our other polls over there on Spotify. And if you see them on Twitter, participate in those too. But yeah, so I clearly lost that poll, but I still maintain my point that you need a united wizarding world, because that's what Voldy wants, is separation.
Absolutely.
If you're separated, you're easier to pick off.
Yeah.
So, but anyway.
I see your point, Dan.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me that.
Yes. You're welcome. I feel like that's my Hufflepuffness.
Very much so, yes, but I appreciate it. So anyway, we get to the end of this chapter, and the trio reunite after Rufus and Harry's talk. And long story short, Harry starts with, I'm not coming back here next year. Like, I don't care if they open the school, close the school, either way, I'm not coming back to Hogwarts. Hermione's like, I knew you were going to say that. I knew it. And he says his plans are basically he'll briefly return to the Dursleys, because that's what Dumbledore would have wanted, before leaving there for good as well. He might visit Godric's Hollow and maybe visit his parents' gravesite, which I feel like is super reasonable, and kind of shocked that no one's actually took him there.
Yeah.
Like, it's a little weird, but okay.
That's a really good point, Dan. I love that we're all just thinking about that now.
He spent time with Sirius, and they've had, like, I get that they were busy cleaning Grimmauld Place.
Right.
But Sirius and Lupin couldn't have taken him to Godric's Hollow just to look at Lily and James's...
Pay respect to his parents.
For real. Like, right?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Then, after Godric's Hollow visit, he will track down Horcruxes, kill Voldy, and maybe Snape too. And Ron and Hermione are like, cool. We're going too, just so you're aware. We've had time to think about it. We've had time to measure what we should or shouldn't do, and we're with you. Yeah. So that's what we're going to do. And then Ron, being Ron Weasley, this is one of the Ron things that we get is, that's all cool, all your plans and stuff, but you have a thing to do first that has to be done. What's that? Wedding! You have a wedding!
Duh!
Bill and Fleur are being married.
Right.
You could worry about all that other stuff after.
Right. We need to have a wedding first.
And then Harry reflects on that it's actually kind of nice to think about at least one day where there will be peace and normalcy.
Yeah.
And then that's how the chapter ends.
And that's how the book ends.
That's how the book ends.
Yeah.
So we prepare ourselves for book 7 in this series, The Deathly Hallows.
We sure do.
So we will talk more in the spoiler section. We'll talk more a little bit about our breakdown of Half-Blood Prince and what was. And we'll look towards Deathly Hallows. So join us in the spoiler section. We will be right back with it after this break sound. Before we get to our break sound, I'd like to acknowledge our friend Andy, who helps us produce our intros and our break sounds. If you want to hear more of Andy's work and like Formula One racing, check out the Outlap F1 podcast. It's your one-stop shop for Formula One news, insights, race previews, and reviews. You can find them wherever you listen to podcasts, and they even have a YouTube page. So check out Andy, Cody, John, James, and Deanna, and join them on the Outlap.
This episode is brought to you by Jira. Ever wonder how those big marketing campaigns that make headlines get delivered on time? It all starts with Jira, the only project management tool you need to plan and track work across any team. Every step of that campaign is organised in one place, from launching the campaign all the way back to designing ads and writing creative briefs. Get started on your next big marketing campaign idea today in Jira.
Where is he? Where's my 1-1?
All right, so we are back with the spoiler section of the final chapter of Half-Blood Prince, The White Tomb. And we wanted to start off, first of all, with a spoiler from this chapter, before we get into all the summaries and look-aheads and all that kind of fun stuff. But the barman of the Hog's Head was in attendance.
Yeah.
That barman is one Aberforth Dumbledore.
Yes, it is.
And I know while I was reading it, I was thinking, like, what must he be thinking? watching this funeral, listening to people talk about him. I know him and Albus haven't had the greatest relationship,
No.
to put it mildly, in a lot of different ways. But at the same time, Aberforth's parents are both gone. His sister's gone. And now his brother is gone. And as much as they've been antagonistic towards each other through the years, he's a member of the Order of the Phoenix. Mm-hmm. Not advertised as such, but he's acting as one. Mm-hmm. He's helping the Order. He's helped Dumbledore through the years. The Fantastic Beasts movies show him and Dumbledore talking sometimes.
Yep.
And then, obviously, who was the one giving Albus all the intel on Voldy's quote-unquote friends hanging out in Hogsmeade? Mm-hmm. That was Aberforth.
Sure was.
So, I mean, they're still connected. And they're still trying to do what's best. Even though they might disagree on how that goes sometimes. But Aberforth obviously takes a much bigger role in Book 7, as we will get to. But I just wonder what he's feeling and thinking.
Yeah. I mean, the way that I feel like the Fantastic Beasts movies portray him is like he's kind of like cynical of Dumbledore in a way, So like I wonder if there's half of like a little bit of like a eye roll with everybody showing up and coming. But at the same time, too, like, that was his brother. That was his last family member, right?
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I think the image they give of... Because I haven't watched the Fantastic Beasts movies in a minute.
Yeah.
But the image that I get is Dumbledore always went to Aberforth for a straight answer. Mm-hmm. Because he knew Aberforth would give it to him.
Yeah.
He wasn't intimidated by Albus Dumbledore.
Right.
He wasn't, awed by the mystique of Albus Dumbledore. Mm-hmm. At the heart of it, they're both brothers that grew up together.
Yeah.
And Aberforth is a talented wizard in his own right. He's a smart man in his own right. I know he's the barman at the Hogshead, but he is still very capable. Mm-hmm. So if Albus wanted a word, Aberforth was there to give it to him. Mm-hmm. Honestly, bluntly, and didn't care what Albus would feel about it, which is a great resource to have sometimes. Sometimes you just need to not have the sugar coating on it and just be like, give it to me straight. Like, actually give me your thoughts. Mm-hmm. Don't try to make me happy. Like, give me your actual 2 cents. And that's what Aberforth was there. So, I don't know. If I were Aberforth right now, I'd be thinking similarly along the lines of many other people at the funeral of, well, what do we do now? As far as the front goes, like, is this over? Mm-hmm. Is losing him, are we done now? Then you're competing with, I've lost my brother. I've lost everyone in my family. I'm it now.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot for him to kind of consider.
And unpack.
We're just stuck in Harry's mind.
Right.
Like, I can't... Harry's mind is complicated enough for justified reasons. Aberforth. Mm-hmm. Whew.
Yeah.
There's a lifetime of memories and feelings to sift through, and some of them are funny, probably. Mm-hmm. Some of them probably elicit anger and hatred, maybe. And then, some of it's sadness. I can't imagine what he'd be going through.
Oh, yeah.
That's the Aberforth spoiler that we have for you.
Yeah.
So let's wrap up Half-Blood Prince before we get to the look ahead to Deathly Hallows. Mollie, this is your favorite book, so I'll let you take lead. What's some of your highlights from the book? Some of your favorite moments?
Yeah. Highlights from the book. I believe I said this when we first started. I just love all the memories that they dive into about Voldy. And then also, too, I just love the fact that it's like your kind of like last look at Hogwarts.
Yeah, that's true.
This is the last bit of like a somewhat normal teenage experience at school. Mm-hmm. So I like that part about it. I love Slughorn. I love the introduction of him. He's a great character. I don't know. There's just so much like the vibes of this book I just really like. I really do.
Okay. Yeah, there are some things. So it is not a secret that it is not my favorite book in the series.
Did that ever change, Dan?
No.
No.
It hasn't changed because I think the first book and the second book are a little bit too Disney for me. It's like a little too like wrapped up in a neat bow kind of thing. And this book is definitely not that, which I do like the darker tones, for sure. But, the first book of Harry Potter is still your introduction to the wizarding world. So it's so special.
Right.
And then I'm thinking about the Chamber of Secrets. I really love the Tom Riddle like monologue towards the end. And like there's some really cool aspects to that book as Disney as it is. Even though like kids are getting petrified. It's not... And Moaning Myrtle.
Yeah.
I mean, Moaning Myrtle, if you really look at some of her... And I know we brought it up when we went over the book, but some of Moaning Myrtle stuff is dark.
Very dark.
And it's troubling, and it speaks to a lot of bullying and a lot of dark... Like, her story is a lot more tragic than even, like, you get on the surface level.
Yeah.
But, so, I mean, there's hints there, too. This book, I do really, really like some things about it. Like, the memory stuff. I remember reading it the first time, and I didn't love that. I was hoping for more combative lessons with Dumbledore.
Yeah.
That's fine, but, I've liked this book more on rereads than I did my first time reading it, because I think the lessons with Dumbledore are cool and appropriate and give you a wealth of information that's really cool. I liked the ministers meeting at the very, very beginning of the book. I think that's really cool. I thought it was, my first read, I thought it was immensely boring. On rereads, I'm like, oh, this is actually really cool. And this is valuable. I like it. So the book has grown on me. I was surprised on this reread how much relationship stuff was actually in it. Like I always knew there was some, but I always thought the movie overplayed how much relationship stuff was in. And they didn't actually. There was a lot. There was a lot. So that was a surprise. My big question for this book was, will the Draco Malfoy stalking be too much? Like I remembered it being like he's looking at the map again. He's going to the room of requirement again. Like that would weigh on me, and I'm like, okay, Harry, this is too much. Yeah. Okay, JK, this is too much. Like, can we focus on something else, please? And I will say, upon this reread, it was less than I remember. Okay. It wasn't as overwhelming as I had remembered. So I will give it that credit. It was still there, and obviously during those points I pointed out, like, Harry, you've got more important things to do. You need that memory. Why are you at the room of requirement? But it wasn't like overwhelming, and I didn't find myself being dragged down by paragraphs upon paragraphs of him thinking about Draco Malfoy. So there is that. I'll give it that. And as I said, I think in the last chapter with you, the last episode, these last 4 or 5 chapters are stellar. I mean, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I feel like the last few chapters of this book are really top-notch for a bunch of different reasons. I mean, the suspense, the new and different magic, the action, the emotional punch. Like, I think the last couple of chapters here are really, really good.
They are.
And to me, maybe the rest of the book isn't up to that level of hype, but it's still a really good book. Yeah. And I still view it as a massive introduction to book 7. Yeah. I mean, I still view it that way because I feel like that's what the memories are, is basically you're gearing up for. This whole book is gearing you towards all of the events that happen in book 7. So I still view it as just a really large introduction, especially coming off of, it's still a big book. It's like 650 pages or something like that.
Oh, wow, yeah.
But it's still shorter than Order of the Phoenix and Goblet of Fire. So, and Deathly Hallows. It's shorter than all 3 of those books.
652.
652. I was very close. But, yeah, with 652 pages, it's shorter than the 2 books prior to it and the book succeeding it. Mm-hmm. So I just have this image in my head of like, oh, it's just like a little fun introductory like book to book 7, when it's not. It's a thick book with a lot in it. Right. I like the book. I wouldn't be doing a Harry Potter podcast where I dive
into books you don't like.
Yeah, right. Like, I don't want to make it sound like I hate this book. It's my least favorite of the 7. Yeah. I still obviously like the book. And I find it fascinating to dive into, and I hope all of our listeners have found it fascinating as we've dived into these chapters. And, there are chapters in this book that are like 13 pages long that we've made into like hour-long episodes because there's so much depth to pry out of it, which is a testament to how good the book is.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact that I get, like, the mark of a good book to me is that I feel something while reading it. Mm-hmm. And I feel something while reading it on multiple reads. So Order of the Phoenix always sticks out because Umbridge makes me mad.
Yeah.
And you get that introduction to Umbridge in 5. Clearly she makes me mad because she made me mad reading her bit in book 6, and it was only a page.
Yeah.
And it bothered me. So, I mean, just as much as I hate that, it's really good writing because you've built a character that I react viscerally to, which is great.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, just me getting angry at a final chapter and be like, I can't believe she's there. Well, that's great because you made me feel something. The emotional weight of, like, Harry processing grief, like we were talking about.
Right.
That hits on an emotional level because now, in my 30s, I have lost loved ones. I have lost family members. I've been to multiple wakes. I've been to multiple funerals. So it hits me different now because I felt those things and I've gone through those emotions. So I empathize and I identify that much more with it. And it just hits a different way. You said, seeing the Mollie Weasley stuff with Bill hits a different way now that you have a son.
Right.
Some of these books just hit different. And to reread them a decade, 2 decades later, it's a testament to how good they are. Yeah. That they hold up maybe even better than they were on our first reads, which is amazing to think about. So that's amazing. What I'm saying is the back end of this book really does hit and hit a really solid vibe, which is a testament to the book.
Yeah.
You mentioned Slughorn. Speaking of introductions of characters, like we had Umbridge in 5 and now Slughorn in 6. I like Slughorn as a character.
Yeah.
And I think reading his character again in this book, I like him more. Mm-hmm. I thought he's a very well-rounded character. I think he's a very well-rounded Slytherin character, which Jen, agrees that we need so badly.
Yeah. To
have a Slytherin that's just not purely evil.
Oh, for sure.
And he provides that, and it's just a thing we needed. And to get him in this book where Draco and Snape go so bad, it's such a good counterbalance. Mm-hmm. And even to the end, he was presumably patrolling the hallways. Presumably. He was contacting the ministry for the school. He was there giving good, solid, neutral, just good advice to McGonagall about what he genuinely thinks should be done with the students in the best way possible. Like, he's not trying to tell her what to do. He's not disparaging anybody. He's just saying, like, hey, I think what's best for the students is this.
Right.
Good intentions. Mm-hmm. It's something we don't get with Slytherins very often. And it's nice to have Slughorn in this book give us that. Mm-hmm. So Slughorn is great. We do want to look ahead to Deathly Hallows really quick. What are some things you're looking forward to in book number 7?
Oh, man, that whole book is just a wild ride.
It is from start to finish.
Oh, yeah. The suspense. I remember just sitting down and reading that and being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. And then, like, you'd get a, like, short little lull. And then it would be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. So I'm excited for the wild ride.
I know Julie is looking forward to Harry Potter and the Prolonged Camping Trip.
Yeah.
And, I don't have anything like that going into book 7 where I'm like, oh, I'm really looking at this to see if I look at it a different way. But now she's giving me something. So I want to see if the same, like, so very similar to this book, and see, oh, is Harry stalking Draco, like, through the majority of this book? And I realized, well, maybe not as much as I thought.
Yeah.
Are they actually fixated on camping as much as Julie thinks they are? I would like to figure that out. So that's something to look forward to. I love this book, and I was looking at chapter summaries to figure out who might be on certain chapters, and because that's the work of a podcast host to set up that scheduling. And I was reading the summaries, and I'm like, wow, this is like banger after banger of chapters. And I'm like, we have full chapters that we're going to have to discuss. So we might have to get creative on how we cover it. We might have multiple people come in and do a non-spoiler and a spoiler. We're also going to have to change the format of this because spoilers are going to be hard to come by since we're in the last book of the series. So we might have to change the format a little bit. So you might see some changes coming with the next book on how we do things, but hopefully it's all for the better. And it is our last book. So if you guys want us to keep putting out content post book 7, woohoo, let us know. Let us know. Give us that feedback on A, if you want us to keep going, B, what you want us to talk about or give insights on or whatever have you. Please do that. Give us some direction as we wrap up the Harry Potter series as we know it. That we wrap up book 6 and the Half-Blood Prince. Let us know what you think by giving us a like, by giving us a 5-star review on Spotify or wherever you're listening to this podcast. Check us out at HogwartsAPod on Twitter and on Instagram and on YouTube. And give us comments, give us likes, retweet it, repost it. Share this podcast with whoever you know that loves Harry Potter, whether it's family, friends, random people on the street that you don't know, but you think they like Harry Potter. Let them know. It's all good. And we will be back next week with Chapter 1 of the Deathly Hallows. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you then. Thank you for listening to Hogwarts, a podcast. If you like what you've heard, please click the subscribe button on your preferred podcasting app and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at HogwartsAPod.